And hello, welcome to the ABCs of communication, connection, and speaking. Today's letter, J. Or is it this way for you? And J today represents journaling. What? Journaling? Yes. And what up, Kevin? The cool thing about this one is I was really struggling with the letter J. I was like, I had some people suggest like jacking your style, things like that. Jealousy, it's not my thing. Jargon, but I kind of talked about that with grammar. Maybe I could have done joining conversations. That could be something, but then I was conversing with a friend of mine, Joyce, the social ace, and he gave me quite a few suggestions. And when I came across journaling, I was like, duh. I got an amazing way to improve your communication skills, to improve the way that you connect with people, to improve your speaking skills, all through journaling. Now, I know that you have heard of journaling. Journaling is, you see, I've got something right here. A journal. Now this is a self-journal actually that I use. It's a self-journal, okay? And it is by Self-Help or somebody like that. Created by, anyways, just look up self-journal. But it's more like a planner, but it's also like a journal. Love it, right? Now, I ain't even gonna lie. I've not been using this like I should, okay? But when I do use it, it's an amazing tool. And then I also journal. Like I have a real journal and I sit down and I just pour out my thoughts. I don't always use a prompt, sometimes I have a process and I'm going to get to this process, but the point is I want to introduce journaling to you. What's up, everybody? I see you in the house. Flawless Beauty by Nicole. Angel in the living room. We in the living room, girl. So I'm talking about journaling, ABCs of communication, connection, and speaking. And I thought about journaling as something that isn't directly correlated with being a better communicator, a better speaker, or like facilitating connection with other people. It's not what you're necessarily going to be taught or told. If you have a public speaking coach, they may, especially when you start really getting into the deep work. But this is something that you might not always consider. So first, what I want to do is I want to highlight, some of the benefits of journaling. And I was quite surprised. Like when I tell you I'm just coming up with this stuff, I'm just coming up with this stuff. Okay. I was quite surprised to see that there's a lot that comes up when you think about improving your communication skills and becoming a better speaker. So, one, journaling helps in this way. It says journaling helps control your symptoms and improve your mood by helping you prioritize problems, fears, and concerns. Oh, if that is all the one reason why you should journal, Charles, if that is all the one reason as to why you would journal and why it would help you communicate, and I just Google it, benefits of journaling. I said for mental health, but it helping you to prioritize problems, fears, and concerns. This goes back to energy. I talked about identity. I think I talked about identity for the letter I. A lot of embracing yourself, finding comfort with yourself. People wonder, where does confidence come from? Confidence comes from prioritizing your problems, fears, and concerns, right? The confidence can come from a number of different things. I usually say it comes from completing things, having practice in things, having done things, familiarity in things. But confidence also comes with, I believe, the comfort that you have with some of your problems, with some of your fears and some of the concerns. I said with also the insecurities that you might have, right? The more comfortable you are with your flaws, your problems, your fears, your concerns, your insecurities, your doubts, the more familiar you are with them, the less you feel like you have to protect yourself from people finding out about them. Now, I'm not saying you got to go out into the world and proclaim, these are my insecurities. I'm not saying you got to do all of that, but there is a peace that comes when you know you are flawed, when you know you have insecurities, and you're not trying to pretend as if they do not exist. Because when you start to pretend that they don't exist, or you try to pretend that they aren't as big as they are, or you just try to pretend that they're not there, there's a non-realness. I'm not going to say that there's a fakeness, but there's a less realness, a non-realness that's being communicated even non-verbally, just off a GP, as they say, right? So in that space of prioritizing your problems, fears, and concerns, if you want to find comfort, if you want to find peace with them, so you feel like you're not constantly filtering, so you're not constantly protecting, putting up walls, like when you're constantly protecting yourself, then you're actually not actually living, right? You're protecting. I think it was Wayne Dyer that talked about triggers. Oh no, it was Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul. Check out that book. And it talks about, if you know that you have these thorns, instead of trying to teach people how to operate around your thorns, you need to operate on your thorns, okay? Otherwise, they never go away. And then you're teaching people how to treat you, and then you're operating in the world. You're taking all of these precautions just to protect these thorns. I say all of that because journaling helps you to prioritize your problems, your fears, and your concerns. You deal with them, even if it's just with yourself, right? You can write about them. You can put them out there. You can become aware of them. You can figure out what your triggers are. You can figure out what your responses are. You just become more familiar with these insecurities. And sometimes I feel like the more familiar you are with them, the less of the insecurity they become, because then you start to understand their limitations. Ooh, it's going into a word. Okay, so here's some other things that they say journaling is good for. Achieve goals. When you use your journal to write down your goals, you can keep better track of your intentions. You can track your progress and your growth. You can gain self-confidence. It also says that it improves your writing and communication skills. So obviously journaling can help you. It says it reduces stress and anxiety. I say when you invite any of these things, achieving those goals, tracking your progress, gaining some self-confidence, improving, your writing and communication skills, reducing anxiety, strengthening your memory. Oh my goodness. So when we struggle, what was I trying to? Journaling helps with your memory, right? So I say all of those things because those are the benefits of journaling, right? But I also want to introduce to you specifically the practice that I've leaned into, because connection is a part of the ABCs of communication. Connection and speaking. Connection and how you show up and communicate and how you speak publicly has a lot to do with the connection that you have with yourself. And I kind of already alluded to that. Like, how are you taking ownership of your identity? How are you finding comfort with your insecurities? How much are you really protecting yourself? Real recognize real at the end of the day. And because connection is really predicated on your ability to be vulnerable, to be open, to be transparent, to really be able to show aspects of yourself, you have to first deal with yourself. So there's this practice that I came up with, and it's kind of, honestly, it's evolved. It's not necessarily that something that I just came up with, but I call it PMRJ, and I just recently added V. PMRJ. Y'all are seeing green because I have my green screen over there. Right? I was doing some work today. Anyways, PMRJ V. P is for prayer. If you pray, right? Prayer for me is the space of showing gratitude. Prayer for me is a space of emptying whatever my thoughts are, whatever my worries are, whatever I'm vacillating over, whatever things I'm keeping in myself that don't serve me. My prayer is a way to just let it out. Prayer is a way for me to have a conversation with God. I understand that God understands the meditation of my heart. So sometimes I feel like I don't even have to ask God for what it is that I desire because he already knows, or she. I got to ask these people. I got to ask y'all to share these lives. I got to ask y'all stuff. But God it's a conversation about just the thoughts, about the meditations of my heart and my mind. So that's what prayer is for me. So prayer is that personal kind of therapy of just outpouring, of expression. It is the space where I probably first say or utter my thoughts or my ideas. It's where I openly share what's really effing with me, what's stopping me, what's distracting me, right? So that's what prayer is for me. Meditation is where I listen. And you all probably have heard variations of these. I mean, I ain't creating no new wheel to this, okay? But meditation for me is where I listen. I listen to spirit, I listen to God, and I listen to myself. What am I telling myself? What am I truly wanting? What am I truly desiring? What am I whispering to myself? So let me listen. What are the utters of my mind saying? So I got to be quiet for that. I got to be quiet because I be talking. So to hear myself for real, I meditate. Just a moment. R is reading, y'all. Reading is fundamental. And reading is important because, I'm going to say reading is important as it relates to communication, connection, and speaking. Reading is important because it helps with my language, my understanding of language. It grows my intellect. I'm putting input in, and it helps me translate when I'm speaking out. So when I'm sharing some of these concepts, it helps me put my ideas together. It helps me compartmentalize my ideas. It helps me flesh out my ideas. I connect my ideas. I get aha moments. When I'm reading other people's stuff, Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul, oh my goodness, has done so much, has shared so much and connected so many of my internal thoughts and ideas about development, peace, and all this other type of stuff. All right. So reading does that. Reading increases your vocabulary. Now, I'm not saying I be using all of these extra new words all the time, but when some people say something, I have context because of all the things that I've read. So it helps me understand even words that I might not personally use myself. And I might come across a few words that I'm like, oh, that's a good word. I might use that. But it also, reading helps me sponsor my thoughts, sponsor my ideas, sponsor the content I come up with. You know, like how I share, what I share, how I formulate my opinions, how I formulate my ideas. Like these are all things that are a compilation of perhaps everything I've experienced and read, all kind of being kind of interpreted by this unique matter in here. You know, so reading helps evolve my thinking. Reading widens my perspective so that when I come in and I can just talk about a letter for communication, connection, and speaking, like I've consumed a lot of content to vary my perspective, to put together words and phrases that then articulate thoughts and ideas that perhaps maybe never have been. So that's what reading is good for. Reading also then leads to PMRJ, which is journaling. So if I am feeling kind of stuck, if I am like, I don't know what I want to write about, I don't know. That's why sometimes I read before I journal, because reading sponsors an idea or a thought. Kind of makes me go, oh my God, didn't think about that. Now I'm inspired to write. Now I'm inspired to pour. Now I'm inspired to explore. Journaling for me is translating. It's a physical transmutation of what is happening in here and kind of like in here into written form, you know, and it forces me to kind of think in a different way because I can't just verbalize it. I have to write it out. My verbal communication skills are so much better than my written communication skills. But because I journal, I'm able to take these complex ideas, these things that I can say so fluidly, the ideas and the concepts and the feelings and the words, they all come together and it's just so fluid sometimes. But then when I got to sit down to a pen and paper, I'm like, yes, and, but, or period, go right here. Sometimes it's a hot mess. But the practice of me journaling makes sure that my written skills keep up with my verbal skills, right? I think that the ability to write and translate what I might say verbally into the written form helps me organize my thoughts and my ideas. It helps me think about sentence structure and word choice. I'm getting into a lot of stuff right now that I didn't even think I was going to get into, y'all. Honestly, I knew that there was value to journaling, but I haven't spent this much time talking about the value of it and how it's a practice and what these things might actually translate to. What I normally say about journaling when it comes to communication, connection, and speaking is you have to be utterly familiar with yourself if you're going to go out there and put yourself out there. Putting yourself out there and not knowing about yourself, it's a catastrophe, because then people going to start asking you questions, and now you're going back in your brain trying to search for what an answer at, and you in this big old warehouse of your own mind that you don't walk through daily. How can you organize your thoughts when you don't visit the warehouse of your mind? You ain't familiar with all your aisles, is you? How do you get familiar with the content, the landscape, the territory of your mind if you don't be just walking around? Like how we go to Target and we just be around Target, just walking around. We go to the grocery store sometimes. I go to the grocery store so frequently, I know exactly what aisle I need to go to get to what I need. But if I don't spend time walking around the aisles of my mind, then when it's time to retrieve and recall information, to gather my thoughts, to put together my content, how am I going to know where to go? Journaling is what gets you familiar with the highways and byways of your mind. I always say that in here is the information highway. And we oftentimes have trouble being the traffic conductor of all of these ideas. You've got stuff coming from all different parts of your mind, and they're all coming from different highways, interstates, and all this other type of stuff. And then you have to be the traffic controller in the middle saying, hey, come. No, you stop. Now you come. No, you keep on. Come on, you know how they be yelling at you. All to come out this one-way street called your mouth, right? But if you're not familiar with the highways and byways, you don't know where to flow traffic, when to flow traffic, when to stop the traffic, when to go over there to get this traffic because it's about that time and that school let out at that time. It's like your whole map is territory. It's a whole city. Journaling is a way to get acquainted with your mind. Journaling is a way to get acquainted with yourself and how you think and what you think and what things you think about might support these other things that you think about. That's what journaling is. Today, I don't think I have too much to say about that. Journaling is the coursework of getting the PhD in your damn self. Can you write a dissertation on yourself? Can you defend your dissertation on yourself? Where the dissertation at? It's in your journal. You go back, if you journal, people who journal over years, they can go back and learn things about themselves, be refreshed about some of the things that they learned about themselves, be relieved that they ain't that self no more. It's a dissertation. It's a lifelong dissertation. You got to get your PhD in yourself. Because if you don't have your PhD in yourself, then it's no wonder why we go out in front of other people feeling so insecure, whether or not they're going to judge me for this or judge me for that. If you would have saw how I was judging myself, reading myself, exploring myself in my journal, I've been there and I've done that already, boo-boo. Listen to what I got to say. What are y'all's thoughts? I know I got a couple people that are hanging out. I just went on a way down somewhere else. I wasn't even expecting to go. But I definitely appreciate y'all for hanging in there with me. So if you have any thoughts about this, it's the ABCs of communication, connection, and speaking. Letter J is about journaling. So my call to action for you all, it might be a bit much to say, go journal. I'm telling y'all to do a lot of stuff. If you do journal, stay consistent with it. If you do journal and it's like, it's been a couple months, don't worry about it. Pick it back up. Because in 3 years, you look back on it. Yeah, it was a 2 or 3 month gap, but you'll be grateful for what you've documented. If you do journal, commit to it. And if you do journal, understand like it's not just a place for you to vent. It's a space for you to explore. And when you explore the contents of your being, when it's time to then share those contents, you know exactly where to go to find what you need to connect the dots for whoever listening. That's how powerful it is. I feel like journaling has been a really crucial part of my development as a speaker. But I really do believe that it has been an integral part of growing my authenticity. And I know we talked about authenticity in our first letter, but again, authenticity is this is so whack. Don't you hate when you ask for a definition and it'd be like, the word is in the definition? It said the definition of authenticity is the quality of being authentic. I know that. Give me more. Let's see what Cambridge says. The quality of being real or true. And I think that the true, if you're not exploring yourself, you don't know what's true about yourself. You don't know what's a constant. You don't know what's a variable. You don't know what's temporary versus what is fixed. You don't know what you don't know what's true about you. So how can you be authentic? So I think that the journaling has been a really good practice and a good tool for me hi Letitia, for me to come to terms with what's true about myself and to stay up to date with that, because I'm constantly changing, I'm constantly evolving, I'm constantly growing. And for me to remain authentic is not for me to remain true to the understandings of what once was about me, but it's to constantly be in a pursuit of exploration, a pursuit of finding. What am I going to find next about myself? I think that also is what attributes to you being interesting. If you feel like there's nothing to journal about, if you feel like there's nothing to explore within yourself, then how possibly will somebody else find you interesting if you don't find yourself interesting? If you get bored journaling, then that really just means that you're bored with yourself. So use that as a practice to find out what's true about you, what's changing about you, what's evolving about you. Those are things that you can always share. Those are questions that you can ask of other people. They're going to be like, oh my God, no one's ever seen me, right? Anyways, today was a tough day trying to get out of here. It was the ABCs of communication, connection, and speaking. This one was about connection to self. Sorry, I got a phone call. But I had a whole long day of things going on today, so I finally get to it. But connection, communication, speaking. Today was J. What's tomorrow? K. What am I going to talk about? If y'all have any suggestions, feel free to throw them in the comments. DM me for K. I don't even know. K? Killer mentality, or keep it moving, or kicking off conversation, or I don't know. But I thank you all for joining me. For those of you who journal. For those of you who don't, find space to explore yourself. I think that is what journaling is all about. Just exploring yourself. Kick it off. Kevin says, kick it off. Kick what off? Kick it off, kicking off the conversation. Maybe that's what K is. Anyways, it's been a pleasure, my dears. I am getting ready to go to the gym and work out. I get to work out. Yes, I get to work out. That's what I'm going to do. But I will be back tomorrow with the letter K for the ABCs of communication, connection, and speaking. Peace out.